Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to an AI Pro Plus special podcast. We are reacting, and you've probably heard me a couple of times today. I was on AI Scouted just for the start, reacting, and then obviously I did something for 20 minutes just whilst driving for AI Pro subscribers in Discord. And if you're not on Discord, see, you miss out on shit like that. But I'm recording, so we're here, and lots of AI Pro folk with me. Mr. Simon Brundish, how you doing, mate? Nice pod earlier this week. Superb stuff.
Oh yeah, thanks. I'm good. How can you not be good? What a day.
What a day. I'm also joined by Tad as well. Tadiwa, how you doing, mate? You okay?
Absolutely buzzing. And yourself, Gags?
Mate, like Sai just said, how can you not be buzzing after that? I mean, the biggest news we're here to cover is that Jurgen Klopp has now signed the dotted line to extend his stay for another 2 years, so 4 years in total. As he was saying, his wife, his wife loves it here, so he's happy to stay. That's like, even the humor comes through in that 90-second clip from Jurgen Klopp. But there's so many factors to how awesome this news is, and first and foremost, from a fan reaction point of view, I mean, this is the best news possible, I mean, literally, apart from winning a trophy, this is the happiest a Liverpool fan could be right now.
Yeah, how pissed off must everybody else be at this point? Like, it's just, we're piling on. We're going to win all 4 competitions, and the greatest manager in the world has just decided to sign on for a little bit longer.
Exactly. It's just like, we're taking the piss, and we're also joined by Jim Boardman today as well. Jim, how you doing, mate?
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can. Absolutely.
Modern technology on a day like today, too much to deal with.
Too much to deal with. But what's your initial reaction when you saw that this morning? A bit of shock?
Yeah, it was a little bit of shock, because all the indications were that he was sort of looking forward to his retirement, but obviously things have changed and he's enjoying the job so much that he wants to stay another couple of years. And this is one of the things that could have dragged on, couldn't it? It could have been a while thinking, is he going to sign? Who's going to come in his place? Puts all that out the window now. We can quietly get on with things, I would say, and quietly get on with winning things, and maybe thinking about who's next is a little bit of a longer term thing.
Exactly, and we'll try and cover some of that in a bit.
Let's make it 10 years.
Yeah, this takes it over 10.
That's the beauty. It's that Klopp's been at a club for 10 years. He did talk about it. He kind of loosely alluded to it when he first signed, if all things went well. And 10 years is such a legacy thing, isn't it? Like, I could break down the managers that have stayed at clubs for 10 years and the value of winning that they've offered, and amazing.
It takes him into that territory of being at a club like Wenger and Fergie, before him, in terms of he gets that level now in Premier League history, where hopefully he has that multiple winning title runs and multiple European Cups. He literally surpasses some people.
He'll be literally the longest running manager in the Premier League for 5 years.
Yeah, that's great. That's nuts as well. But
absolutely nuts.
Before, I know Tad hasn't got much time, so before we go on to some of the other reasons, Tad, let's talk something. We touched on it earlier about commercial reasons and stuff. How amazing this is commercially for the club as well. That Klopp signs the deal.
Yeah, I mean, it sets Liverpool up really well from a commercial standpoint. I mean, you can just imagine from a basic level going into negotiations. We know, for example, the kit sponsorship deal is coming up soon. If people are coming to invest in Liverpool and they know Jurgen Klopp is there for, the foreseeable future, that definitely puts Liverpool on a really strong standpoint, on a really strong footing as well. And I doubt this will be the only signing that we get, whether it's current players re-signing or new players coming in. Klopp has been quite clear in his intentions of being at Liverpool as long as they show the commitment to providing him the tools that he needs to compete at the highest level. We know the frustrations he had at Borussia Dortmund, and obviously he was quite limited at Mainz in terms of the backing that he could get there. And ultimately at Dortmund, the issue was he just kept losing his best players. He couldn't really, fund things the way he wanted to. He couldn't bring in outside help when he needed to. Whereas at Liverpool, they're basically giving him everything he asks for, whether it's the conventional or the unconventional things. And as long as that keeps happening, I think that's going to just, it's kind of unlimited how long he can stay, as long as we keep providing the tools for him. And by providing the tools for him, it helps then our commercial value grow as well. So it's kind of like a beautiful circle that just completes itself. As long as they keep helping him, he'll keep helping the club. And it's a really harmonious moment for the club at the moment, I think.
It's massive, actually, Si, because you've commented on this a few times, like Tad's point there, where he's got everything he wanted. All of his mates have come in. He's literally got people he's worked with before or that are his friends or whatever in the club, doctors and food experts. Everything's there for him. Why? I mean, you have to ask yourself, why would he leave? There's no reason to leave.
He's created his own commune. It's like the cult of Klopp. It's everybody at Kirby are Klopp disciples. Plus, how much fun must it be? So set aside football for a second, right? You find a job that you love doing. Not only do you love doing it, you are brilliant at it. People tell you every day how brilliant at it. You happen to be in a job where millions of people adore you because you are brilliant at this thing objectively. What are you doing if you're not staying that? Like, isn't that's life? That's the thing that we all want.
Absolutely. That's everything that you would want. I mean, like you said, the commune thing, you build a team that you're going to be comfortable with. But then if they're the best in the business as well.
And they're great people.
And they're good people. And the squad's happy. And literally there's no murmurs of things going on in there that's going to hurt the squad at all. I mean, it's like a match made in heaven. And we've talked about this type of stuff before as well, Jim, in terms of he mentions FSG as well. Klopp in that 90 seconds that FSG want to keep him and he's sticking around like a bad smell. Again, he literally just joked about himself loads through that 90 seconds, which is all we've got to go on. But he kind of, that's like crediting them that, they want to keep him. But at the end of the day, these two, it's a match made in heaven, isn't it? With our ownership, with Klopp, everything just ticking. Not only forget what comes down, with what Klopp brings in underneath him, his management, it's Klopp upwards is perfect too.
Yeah, it is, and I think you look at that. I mean, when he started that day, I thought there was something special about him, and I think FSG had kind of got a few things wrong. It goes without saying. I mean, they inherited Roy Hodgson, they brought Kenny in, and that was a good move. Brendan wasn't a bad idea, in terms of what we knew at the time, but wasn't a great idea. But then when Klopp came in, it just felt right. The first day in the job, he knew what the club was about. He knew what the city was about. He knew what the history of the club was about. He knew what we wanted. And most importantly of all, you just felt he knew how to deliver what we wanted as well. He sort of said he'd get us some titles. And, you think to yourself, why would you say that on your first day? You're making a rod for your own back. But he kind of knew he could, and that must have been partly down to what he knew he could get out of FSG and what they saw. And I think what's been great is how well they've worked together. I mean, you think back to, again, mentioning Brendan Rodgers and the whole Mario Balotelli situation, where quite clearly he didn't want him, but he was going to get him, and it just left a bad smell. It just gave out an impression outside of the club that things weren't right, things weren't harmonious, there were little power struggles, and it's just not what you want to hear from your football club. the bad smell now is, as you just mentioned, is Klopp himself. It's not a bad smell; it's a good smell. Well, we'll see. Maybe not after a few pints, but he just gets what we're about. But the thing is, it's just about everyone being harmonious. They seem to bring in the best people in all the roles, and so they're obviously not micromanaging the club, but they're getting good people in who can look after the club, who then in turn are getting good people in to look after so many different functions at the club. It's not just the pitch stuff. It's not just the coaching side. It's not just the football side. It's the commercial side. It's just about everything. It's just about getting decent people to come in, good people. But it's not even then about getting the best people. I mean, it's getting the right people. It's not about the best footballers in the world who want to be paid a fortune. It's about the best footballers in the world who want to play for one of the best clubs in the world because they want to win things, because they've still got that dream and they want to keep that dream alive. And I think what FSG have done really quite smartly in a way is worked out that if you get all of that stuff right, if you get all those dreams to come true, the money is still going to come flooding in. Liverpool are successful commercially all the more now. Exactly. We're selling out the ground. We're making it bigger. We're selling it out. We're selling shirts. We're selling it. We can make money for people who want to make money, but that's not kind of how we run. We're not run money first.
Yeah.
We run do things right, and the money will come later. And that's the way to do it.
Literally getting to a Champions League final is a down payment for a player. Like just
Yeah.
one player, bang, there you go, sorted. Just from reaching a final. I mean, we got Rhodesy on as well. Rhodesy, welcome, man. What a day. I think Jim just touched on players there and recruitment, and I just want to talk to you about how important it is, not just for incoming players, but all the players that he just, have all just renewed earlier this year, or late at the start of the season. Lots of players renewed. There's players that are about to be renewed. We know those talks are underway. And then, obviously, anybody coming in, knowing Klopp's here for 4 years, bang, right? I mean...
Maybe that's one of the biggest factors from a fan point of view is the draw now. The draw's there long term. And you can call it long term in football because, as Simon was mentioning, there's very, very few managers who manage a club for 10 years or more, especially with the success that he's had from the position that he took over at. I should say I'm unbelievably shocked by it because I thought that was it. I thought after last season and all the stuff about not being able to get back to Germany and everything was a huge factor in him probably leaving in 2024. I didn't see any extension.
I doubted everybody that said he would leave in 2024. You know why? Just because the reaction, this year, you could tell that there was something.
Maybe.
You could tell he was in it, man. It's the zone is there this year. You could tell he was loving it again, and it's,
being good at your job's intoxicating.
Absolutely, absolutely, and the reaction from players as well, Si, right? You're a coach and stuff. If people are reacting to you, responding to you, and being the best they can whilst you're coaching them, it fills you with even more, right? Like, this is going to be amazing. I want to see where this goes.
You sign the best midfielder in the world. He comes in, he's a bit broken. You manage to fix him, and he plays like the best midfielder you've ever seen in your entire fucking life, and you're 54. How are you not walking around with a hard on?
Combined with all the other players he's got around him, it's amazing, yeah. And this isn't a knock on Mo at all, but it's just you've had one contract saga that lasted about 8 months, and then you've got one that lasted about 8 hours.
Did it really though? He could well have been chatting about this for 6 months without anybody knowing.
It was just interesting the timing and how it's.
I was one of the first people, Rhodesy, to come into this chat in Discord, and you can ask anyone that has been in the transfer chat. And I came in and I said, I've got a feeling Mo's waiting for Klopp to re-sign.
You have seen me say it.
And you know what? This was months and months ago, and I said, I've got a feeling Klopp will re-sign and extend, and then we'll see something happen with Mo. Because, let me be honest, a lot of these players, they would be great elsewhere too, but they wouldn't be this great elsewhere because he somehow gets the best out of all these attacking.
Yeah, but it's not even just this, right? It's not even just that from a Mo or a Mane's perspective, right? If you look at all of the clubs in history that have had a great manager that left, what happened? And so what we're doing is asking Mo to sign for 5 years or whatever but 3 of those are going to be in either the transition phase or the down phase of bedding in a new coach.
Yeah, at the end of his career as well.
Well, it doesn't even matter if it's the end of your career. If it's the middle of your career, it'd be worse. But like having the stability of knowing that the manager that respects you and admires you and you have this great relationship with is going to be around for the length of your contract. That changes the dynamic completely.
Agreed. Just to say, Gags, I've got to go now. I'm 76 minutes through the press in. I think Dan Kennett's going to be expecting it soon.
Well, I rewatched some of the game earlier, and Jesus Christ, man, we just literally didn't let them. I think Sai summed it up on Twitter last night as I was driving. We were in the car on the way back, and I just read one of his tweets. I don't know if it was this morning, maybe actually. One of the things, the best team at doing through balls just weren't allowed to play any through balls, and that was the key, one of the key things, because I was telling people that stat and yesterday whilst at the game, and they were like, "Well, they didn't actually get to do any through balls." I was like, "I wonder why." But yeah, it was intense, very intense.
The absolute wall that we've got pressing. I'll show you once I finish, mate. But those who are listening, I think it's Monday. We are recording on Monday, so there we go.
Superb.
See you, mate.
Yeah, thank you, mate. Thanks for popping on. No problem. But
that, you know what that does as well, what you're just saying there, it just reminds me of that how lucky we are when you compare to other Premier League managers and other successful managers. That, I mean, how boring was Arsene Wenger's lot to watch when they were winning things? How many times did Alex Ferguson's teams go through periods of just not being great to watch? I mean, they weren't bad, don't get me wrong, but we're not just winning things, we're actually enjoyable to watch. If you were if there's any such thing as a neutral fan in football, you'd want to watch Liverpool, wouldn't you, because of the way we play? And that's something, again, that is not just won us things and got us thinking we can win things. We enjoy every game. Every single game you watch, you can enjoy, which is a rarity in football, I would say.
It is, and also, as a neutral, how can you not love the manager as well? How can you not love Jurgen Klopp?
There's so many people who do. You get, I don't know about yourself, but I'll get DMs off people who are quite staunch fans of one club or another, and they'll just quietly mention that how jealous they are, in a nice way, how much they love Klopp and how much they wish they had him as their manager. And it's not just about what he does on the pitch, it's what he is as a person. You'd love him as your father-in-law, wouldn't you? He's that kind of person.
That's the first time I've heard that one. You love him as your father-in-law.
He's a bit young for my father-in-law, to be honest, but
But yeah, I mean, Sai, there's another side to this as well in terms of youngsters. We're trying to bring through people like Carvalho, or hopefully we're signing him. But we've done stuff with Trent. We're getting Elliott to come through. There's a whole load of other youngsters. It looks like Liverpool are signing so many youngsters at the moment, 18, 19-year-olds to come in. That's another factor, isn't it? That he does. If they're amazing, they do get a chance.
Sure, but also they get to be coached by one of the great coaches in history. They get to be coached by. You forget how young these kids are in relative terms, not in actual age, but in experiential terms. Of if you get a 16-year-old, right, they're currently living the life of the most famous player that they've ever heard of. Play for Liverpool is Mo Salah. The most famous manager ever at Liverpool is Jurgen Klopp. Like, this is their history. So they're getting to play with the great legends of the games in their mind.
Yeah, and he's revered now in the management world, like, full stop, isn't it? It's just like before, you just hear some people saying, yeah, Jurgen Klopp's great. But now literally everyone is saying it. There's no doubt. This season especially, like even last year, people wouldn't say too much shouting off. You got all of the naysayers shouting from the rooftops this season how good this team are.
You look at the beginning of the season when all of the dickheads predicted we'd finish, even some of them outside of the top 4 because of the absolute disaster, which nobody recognised. The greatest injury issue in Premier League history. We had 40 games missed more than anybody else ever of all time, and that was one of our 3 best players for the large part. It's just a catastrophe of a season, and during COVID and the poor dude goes through what he goes through. I've got to go to training, so can I just leave with one set of statistics, right? We do with and without plus minus players all the time. In the Premier League, without Jurgen Klopp, we are a 64 point a season team, 60 goals, 52 conceded. With Jurgen Klopp, 82 point team, 84 goals, 33 conceded. Jurgen Klopp is the best of Liverpool in the Premier League.
Wow. That's amazing. Nice way to finish your stint on this one, mate. Thank you very much for joining us.
See you later, boys.
Thanks, mate. Thanks. Tad, before you go as well, I think you're about to leave. Any final thoughts from you?
I think just everyone, can breathe, because it was getting to that point. I mean, I had kind of dealt with the Kloppers leaving scenario for well over a year now, and I was just like, I'm just going to enjoy what we have left of his campaign. And so I was completely in the dark. I knew for a fact he's leaving. I've accepted it. We'll enjoy it, and then when he goes, it'll be a nice ceremony. And then you wake up to news like this. I mean, the sky's really the limit. And I think it's also really nice that Klopp's going to get to enjoy this team that he's built. So this version of this team at their peak, without the worry of, am I leaving it too early? Like he gets to actually just live in this moment, I think, a lot more, knowing that he's going to be here for a while. Because it might be awkward for him as well. Could you imagine going into next season or the season after that, off the back of what we're hoping is the greatest season in Liverpool history? Well, now he's got room to breathe. Sorry. So it's really exciting. And then also a huge shout out to Mrs. Ulla Klopp, because Klopp mentioned it in his presser, and he's mentioned it many times before. He gives a lot to his managerial roles. So he always has to ask his family, and they have to discuss it as a family. Are we going to be involved in this? Because it takes so much out of him. And, he had promised before he renewed, he promised that he was only going to be here for a short stint. And then he renews. And then now she's the one that kind of starts the conversation going, which I thought was fantastic. So a huge shout out to her. When he gets his statue, she better get one right next to his.
Something changed though, I think, from last year and this year. When he went through that really painful part of the season last year, and there was all that stress, and you could see the stress on his face. This year, he seems more relaxed. This year, Klopp seemed more smiley and just get on with it type of, that he was back. The start of the season, he was back. He was back with a bang. It just seemed like it was him again. But not only that, you don't see that stress. He seems to be enjoying the challenge of this season. When you sometimes look at Pep's face, it's like he's going to break down. The other Pep Guardiola, that is. He's like, what the hell, man? He's stressed out of his brains. Whereas
he's wearing it.
Yeah,
he's definitely wearing it.
He's not wearing it this year. I think he realized I've lost so much last year. This is fun. This is fun. I've got to take it as fun, and that's what he probably passes down to the players as well, because they look like they're having fun too.
But did he not also lose a year? Maybe that's why I think he wore it a lot more as well, because last season, a lot of this team, Diaz aside, etc., last season they expected to have a campaign like this. Yeah. And then the injuries happen and everything kind of comes crumbling down. People start doubting him. I mean, I don't think Liverpool fans did, but certainly people outside of Liverpool started doubting him. So I think that definitely affected him.
There were some idiots, mate. When the 6 losses at home thing was happening, it was like, come on, man. I don't know how many times I had to explain to people that it's a combination of all these things that are going on, that, it's this bad because injuries, players playing out of position, people dying. It affects you, man. They're not robots, for fuck's sake. They're humans. So it absolutely takes a toll. And it's, they are now They all seem much happier, you know. And you know what? Some of the players do have stress because they're going through contract renewals or whatever, and there's pressure, but they're still turning it on. They're still making this team be one of the best in history, and it has surpassed Chelsea now in terms of May the 1st. It's going to May the 3rd. That's, you know, a Darth stat that I picked up. So at the end of the day, those things, I mean, we could go to literally 1 week towards the end of the season and we still be in it. I mean, it could be mental things like that. That is a historical season. Like I said on AI Scouted earlier, no matter what happens, if we win something or we don't, I'm still going to be so proud of this set of players and this team, because as a Liverpool fan, I've never felt what I'm feeling right now in terms of the position where we are in a season. And to be, there will be a point, maybe next week, fingers crossed, where we're going for a title. We're in a title race at the end of the season, and we've won the Carabao, and we're in the FA Cup final and the Champions League final. I would never ever. None of us have ever experienced it. How can you be disappointed? What happens after that? Sometimes isn't in our hands, Jim, right? But it isn't in our hands, it's in the players. But how can you be disappointed?
You can't be disappointed. I mean, it's like there will be people. I mean, just say that Liverpool end up runners up in everything else now for the rest of, you know, with what's left this season. Right, that's a devastating thought in a lot of ways. But my God, what have you been through to get to the point where you are runners up? You know, you've won 1 cup, you've got runners up in the other 3, and that's almost the worst case scenario. I mean, the worst case scenario is that we lose against Villarreal and only make it to the semis of the Champions League. But that's a hell of a season, and a hell of a season in terms of what it does for you, because you've got to enjoy it as a fan. As in, what are you going through now? How much are you enjoying it now? The anticipation, the dreams, the hopes, and all of that. As a fan, you can see. I mean, Anfield was bursting last night with the support and the love for this team. And yeah, I think you can get the cold hard stats at the end of the season.
Not many teams play every single game of the season.
I mean, it reminds me of 2001. I think I might have mentioned it at some point somewhere. I feel like I repeat myself sometimes.
We did then as well, didn't we?
Yeah.
We actually did.
Yeah, you know, 2001. We played every game, but the stakes were just that bit lower. I mean, it was UEFA Cup, now known as Europa League, but it was UEFA Cup. It was trying to get into the Champions League, not trying to win the league. But we played every game, and every league game was like a cup final. And we just kept going, and we didn't know. There were times when that wasn't in our hands. We didn't know what might happen in the league, but we just kept going and did our thing. Sadly, that wasn't something we built on back then. You know, that was almost like a peak of that manager's time at the club. And again, sort of in a way that happened in 2005 with Rafa. But with Jurgen, you know, I don't know if he had his peak yet. And if this is his peak, there's still plenty to enjoy, even if it does drop down from that level, you know.
The big difference is, Jim, that there's a title race in this one. And, you know, that just adds the stakes higher. And it's a Champions League, not a UEFA Cup. You know, the stakes are at the, you know, the skyrocketed. You know, they're in the
that's why the comparisons. That's why the comparisons aren't with Houllier and Benitez. The comparisons are with Shankly and Paisley and Dalglish. That's and Fagan, because that's the level we're at now. We're at that level where we can actually sit and have a nice, meaningful debate about how good are we now compared to how good are we then, which we have not been able to do that since the 80s, you know. So
no, and even in the 80s, they didn't get to the FA Cup finals, did they? That was one of the things that Paisley didn't do. He couldn't get win that FA Cup.
I hated the FA Cup growing up, but that's because we never got there.
Exactly, and it took Kenny to do that, but then without Europe, you know, so
exactly,
it was one of those things. It switched over when Kenny came in, because then we didn't have Europe, so we focused on trying to get doubles, and we only got the one, but we should have had, I think, 2 or 3, shouldn't we? in the end, but we're just very unlucky at times. Like I said, so you compare that to now, how hard it was to just do a double back in the day. You know, those were counted as elite things. That when we were kids, a double was like the completed football. Now we're talking about a fucking quadruple with stakes much, much higher than anything else. The money at stake, the amount of games, the pace of the game. You know, what it's doing to players, like, it's unbelievable. And
the fact we've got the players to do it though as well. That's another thing that we've quietly built up an amazing squad. We've actually got to the stage now where Klopp is having to leave decent players off the bench. It's not that he's having to leave decent players on the bench because he can't fit them all on the pitch. He's getting to a stage where he's going to have to leave decent players out of the players available to play in that game. We've got that good squad, that deeper squad. We've got obviously got the top class, world class players, but even our backups are decent, and it's so important. And I think we've mentioned recruitment. It's part of what's making everything work. And the thing is, every single one of those players, if players have to come in and play, unexpectedly, maybe players who are maybe on a bit of the fringe, they kind of come in straight away and know exactly what's expected of them, and they're pretty decent at delivering it, which says so much about the coaching, and not just Klopp, but his right hand and left hand man who've made such a difference and helped him in his job. They've been true assistants.
This is something that we touched on earlier when we did the non-recorded version, and it was about how Klopp, you have the best manager anyway, but when that best manager finds ways to improve himself throughout your stint, it's again one of those things where you're blessed, because this season there's been some different things that Klopp has done and made decisions that we never ever thought he would, where he came out and literally said to the press, I'm going to choose the right players for the right games now, and I don't care who it upsets in the squad. And he said that straight. I remember him listening to him say it, and I was like, okay, I want to see the evidence that you do this. And then all of a sudden, now, we've had the NFT midfield, Fabiago. It's not NFT, fuck NFT. It's Fabiago, folks, right? The Fabiago midfield play, starting big games, the right games, and this and that. And it's just a massive change from what used to be Henderson, Milner, and Ginny midfields, right? That type of stuff that kind of just shows he's grown up. And then the substitutions have been unbelievable. It's just been there's certain things that he's changing about himself, which means things are improving even more, and that is so important.
You get the respect, though, as well of the players. So even if he does upset a player by saying you're not starting, you're getting brought off early, whatever. And I mean, Trent looked disappointed last night when he was coming off, and you see it from time to time he plays, but you know damn well that the next day at training, they're going to be sitting there and they're going to be perfectly fine with the decision that was made. They're going to understand it. They're going to get it, and they're going to know that they're not individuals. They're part of a team. That's so important. So many clubs that do well or start to do well start to fail because they've got too many individuals and not enough team players. And these lads know. They know that they're privileged to be playing for Liverpool. They know that they're good, but they know that there's reasons why they might get moved aside. I mean, once a sort of had Divock Origi down as coming on for a game, but he does his stuff, doesn't he? He did it in the derby, as he always does. It's just having that ability to know which plays are right at the right time. And although Klopp will go on about, say, we just take one game at a time, of course he does have to have future games in mind as well, but he just seems to know how to just strike the right balance of keeping players fit, keeping players ready, and keeping players hungry. I am genuinely enjoying every minute of this season and every minute of what we've got in this manager, who it's his personality that we've mentioned, and that I think is a big part of why he can make those big decisions with those players, because they will respect him. And that is such an important part of being a manager. It's not something you just get. You don't just expect to be respected. You've got to earn that respect, and he's earned it in bucket loads.
See, the other thing that comes here is not only respect earned from players, but then your peers and the wider media community. The respect is massive now in this country for Jurgen Klopp. Now he's getting his way with certain things. If you notice that rules started to be changed about if you're playing away from home in Europe on a Wednesday, you can't play the Saturday 12:30, but if you are at home, you can. So like we have this week, we are playing it because we're at home. But if you're away and you're traveling, it's not allowed anymore. That's come from because Jurgen Klopp complained enough about it to make that happen. 5 subs is now coming into play next season. Who was pushing it? The man who kept talking about it, player welfare. All the things that Klopp asks for slowly ends up happening. If you're noticing, there's some power coming in now. There's that Fergie-esque kind of level. No, but I don't want to mention the guy's name, but Fergie did do that. He did have stroke. He did have that power with other clubs and other, just getting things the way he wanted it to happen. But you shout loud enough and you've got enough power in your voice, and people respect you enough, things start to happen, dude. They do.
Yeah,
And
pick the right battles as well. I mean, he doesn't complain about every single thing that happens. I mean, like if we're talking about people that sort of disappoint us in some way, let's talk about Frank Lampard and the way that he jumped straight on refereeing decisions in the derby, and the way the club have hidden behind that. I mean, that's a club that's hidden behind blaming everybody else for their ills for years and years and years now, instead of standing up and going, hang on, that might be us. And that's again, it's something that I've admired about Klopp. He's one of his first games, may have been his first game, and I think Mane scored against us for Southampton, and it made it 1-1, and he was like, he couldn't believe the players thought like they were just so disappointed that they'd conceded, and they were sort of ready to give up and resign themselves to it being a draw, when he's like, what are you doing? There's 10 minutes left yet. You've got time to get one back. And it's that sort of attitude. Like, when refereeing decisions go against you, leave Klopp to argue with the fourth official. You guys on the pitch, if you realise he's not going to change his mind, get on with it. Go and get one back at the other end, because it doesn't matter how the other team scored, and it's this about him.
I remember that. He was shocked at how much they didn't have any fight. The squad,
yeah,
but this
the mindset,
Brendan, isn't it? The mindset from Brendan started to be. Remember, we lost in the FA Cup semi-final. Literally, was the worst semi-final I've ever seen in my life. Where lifeless Liverpool.
We had a team. I think we had a team of actors filling in for us that day, didn't we? But
and they played about million formations too. Those actors, it was unbelievable. Maybe that was part of the script. But where we are from where that was, it's completely different now. You have commentators saying resign themselves. Literally, the Tylers of this world. Oh, Liverpool have scored first. Game's pretty much over. Literally saying it. Literally, like, oh, Klopp team just scored first. That's it. We're done. See,
I think some of them are trying to use
shut the broadcast.
Yeah, I think some of them are trying to use the commentator's curse a little bit. If they can come up with enough stats, maybe they can make us lose. But even that doesn't work for them. We should keep on winning. It's I mean, we've got our faults. We still get things wrong. There's weaknesses. Teams will exploit the weaknesses that they can find. But what I find about Klopp, and again, it's from day one, is if he gets something wrong or something doesn't work out, it's fine, because he learns from it. It doesn't sort of happen very often. Either doesn't happen again, or it's soon sort of eradicated. And that's another hallmark of all his time at the club. He's just he's not sat and cried and licked his wounds over things going wrong. He's just gone away and dealt with it and fixed it, and it's all forgotten. There's always a way to fix a problem, and he finds it.
I agree. He finds a way, and that's one of the best things about him. And I think we talked this last point before we close up this pod is succession, that we talked earlier again on the non-recorded one. Is I'm sure Klopp wouldn't want to leave, and one of the things that's come out from Dave Maddock, I think it is, something about option to stay longer. There's an option for him to continue to renew further. It's not a closed book that it's gone in 2026, and Klopp tried to call out the German media as well, who said that he's coming back in 2024, right? So again, in the interview, he calls people out. He's so funny, he's so cheeky as well. It's just wonderful to see. But he's that he wouldn't, I don't think, like you said, and I would like you to repeat that point, is I don't think Klopp, like you said, would leave without having something in place to succeed him, and so that wasn't in place for 2 years' time. There's nothing there, and hopefully it's not for 6, 7, 8 years' time. But like you said, that's an important part of, I think, the man and what he would want to achieve here, right?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's exactly it. I mean, if you look at Liverpool's history, when we had the boot room, there was all this succession. It always worked out, and and we just kept going and kept going and kept winning. And then it came to a sudden end because of the problems Kenny'd had after Hillsborough and everything else. He left, and then it took us a long, long time to recover from that. And maybe in a lot of ways we didn't recover from it until Klopp arrived. And then you look at Old Trafford, and where Alex Ferguson was the man. He was winning year after year. He was on about leaving. They started to have a dip when he said he was retiring at the end of the season. So he changed his mind and they started winning again. But when he left, there was no real plan, unless you call David Moyes a plan. There was no real plan for a succession, and there was no real plan in terms of even of the squad. The squad that he left behind was struggling. And maybe that's not all down to the manager, but certainly down to the ownership in some or all part of it at that club. And this is where I think there's a difference here, that I don't think Klopp will want to leave us in the lurch. And 2 years is, from now would have been you know how it works. I mean, there's already people been talking tonight about starting to be worried about him leaving, and how maybe when you've got 2 years left on a deal, is it really 2 if someone comes and knocks on the door, and all this kind of stuff, all that uncertainty. I think he will start looking at how there'll be some people to sort of step in and take over from him. That might be our Pep that does that. We'll have to see. He's certainly got possibilities in that sense, but maybe you just need a charismatic person at the front and decent coaching behind. But it's important that we just keep that thing going, that players who do come in, as Klopp's coming towards the end of his time, know that they're going to be looked after by whoever comes next. It's vital. I mean, maybe that comes back to FSG and the business side of things, that, business continuity is such an important thing, isn't it? You want to make sure that if people are leaving, that there's people going to come in and do just as good a job. And it's going to be difficult for anyone to step into Klopp's shoes, but I am sure he'll do all he can to help us find that person. And, I think another important thing about the way the boot room worked was that those people were promoted from within. People who were looking after the reserves would, like Roy Evans and people like that. They run him around. All of these people kind of had other jobs, and they kind of moved upwards and moved that way. And I just feel like at the academy, at the new centre of excellence that we've got out in Kirkby, that there's people there that are learning the trade, picking up the skills and doing a great job. Another one he does as well, another thing this does is it takes away that thing about should Steven Gerrard be our next manager, before Steven Gerrard has actually done anything as a manager to earn that chance.
Yes.
Maybe by then he will have done. Who knows? But the thing is, we don't have to worry about that now, because we've got the best man in the job there right now.
Yeah, we don't have to. We don't have to worry about that, or contemplate that at the moment. At the end of the day, it's literally, we can focus on ourselves and on Klopp and what he's going to do. And I mean, what we talked to Sai earlier a little bit about, the team that he's built. But I mean, it's amazing that literally every single one of them extended. Nobody had, personal ambitions to split from Klopp and do their own thing, like people. It happens in the past. It happened in Fergie's reign a lot with a lot of his assistants who thought they were the dog's bollocks, rather than him, and that it wasn't like a combination of them that was doing it. And Klopp seems to always acknowledge, my team. It's my team. My team does it. It's not just me. My coaches, I can't do it without them. And it's huge to have that recognition as well for them. And then for all of them to stick with him for the next 4. Massive.
Just a different person. I think, remember when the David Beckham power struggle kind of thing was going on with Alex Ferguson? It ended up with someone getting a boot allegedly on their eyebrow or something like that, and all the anger of things being thrown around. Can you imagine if someone tried to have a bit of a power struggle with Klopp? He would just start laughing with that laugh of his, and he'd just diffuse the situation immediately, and then they'd be having a drink afterwards and it'd all be fine. It's just a different mindset completely to and he's showing you that you don't have to be nasty to be successful. And if you're not nasty, those players will want to play for you. I mean, this thing about you get players who'll run through walls for you. He doesn't want you to run through walls. He wants you to run sensibly and powerfully and everything else. But he doesn't want you to hurt yourself necessarily in the process, because he wants you to run smartly, not madly. It's just a different kind of mindset, and it's just
one of the reasons why I want this team with Klopp right now to succeed this season the most, because literally everything from top to bottom would have been done in a football way or in a positive way. It's a non-dickhead policy. It's a squad built from hunger and desire and incentivized and really business driven, passion driven in terms of what you want to, but again, and talent, tactical, with all the stuff they do, and then using every advantage that they can neurologically, set piece wise, the whole shebang, without time wasting, without cheating, without, do you get what I mean? All of it's done honesty and integrity, literally, creatively. I mean, if they were able to pull this off this season, he's built the greatest thing in football ever. Jurgen Klopp would have built the greatest squad in football and achieved the greatest thing in football ever.
He's making the game live up to the name of the people who named the game the beautiful game. It's not beautiful when it's sort of time wasting, pretending to be injured, pretending you've been hit in the face, all that other stuff that makes football depressing at times and not enjoyable. It is a beautiful game. It's an art form. It's exciting to watch. It's entertaining. It's just seeing those moments of skill. The things that make Gary Neville make funny noises, that probably make us all make funny noises, but not quite to that extent. That's what it is. It's just so enjoyable to see, and he's doing everything the right way. And I think if football really, really wanted to sustain itself for the future, it would actually look at the things that Klopp's doing and work out how can we make that kind of thing sort of legislated for. You know, how can we stamp out time wasting? how can we stamp out feigning of injuries and all the diving and stuff that can go on and all the nasty side of football that can go on? How can we get rid of that? And you know, maybe you can't legislate for it, but they need, you know, if they encourage it in some way, then this game won't die out for people. You know, it's fun, it's exciting, it's what you want to go to.
Absolutely. One thing I'm just glad of, people can try and copy the blueprint. They won't be able to recreate the blueprint exactly just because of what Klopp's got at his disposal input in terms of, you know, Dr. Ian Graham's team and, you know, the whole stat side of things, the literal, you know, there's so much that he has at his disposal.
Yeah.
But you have to be open to using it, open to taking on board advice from people. You know, some managers think that they know everything or that their decision is final and they're going to do what they want. But this man has shown over the last 6.5 years that he's open to be advised on. He's open to take on, you know, I mean, he didn't want to sign Mo Salah. Is famously, Michael Edwards said, no, you kind of need to sign this guy, boy, your mate, you know. He's like, all right, then let's get him in. And then, you know, rest is history kind of thing. You know, just an example that he isn't one to just be, you know, just dig his heels in and say no. He's not stubborn in that way.
Oh yeah, stubbornness is one. Yeah, it's one of the traits that sometimes managers will get praised for, that they're stubborn and you know, they stick to the guns and all the rest of it. But that ends up leaving you standing while everyone around you's moving. You know, and I think that what you're saying about anyone trying to copy Liverpool's blueprint, well, they can try, but all they're going to be doing is copying the blueprint at a point in time that we'll have already moved on from, because he doesn't stand still. He isn't stubborn. He does listen. He does take things on board. As I said, you know, if we get something wrong, we don't get it wrong for long. We get it right sooner or later, because he goes back and works on it. And that, you know, he listens to advice. He's interested in what people have to say. And he's nice about it as well, I'm sure. You know, it must be a pleasure to work with him, you know, as much as it's a pleasure to play for him, and as much as it is a pleasure to watch what he does, watch what he's doing for our team.
I don't think there's ever been... There has been this synergy before, of course there has, with other managers, but in the modern era, obviously there's so much social media, the whole thing, the club has never been like this. I haven't heard a peep from an FSG out for a while, man. Like, you know, they've all gone into the caves, but they'll probably be out now after listening to this pod. But, you know, it's turning into that way. Even one signing like a Diaz signing is going to turn into a catalyst, and hopefully we win everything. But again, being open to doing the deal, being open to bring in a player, which it normally says it's got to be the right deal, right time. It's all just perfect at the moment. It's all, and like I said, it might not be by this time next month. It might not be, but whatever happens, I'm always gonna, you know, be able to enjoy that. This season was just an unbelievable ride to get where we got to, and hopefully next Tuesday we complete the job in Spain and we do get to another final, and that makes 4 European finals in 7 years for Jurgen Klopp at this club. And
wow,
I mean, just you turn around and you go, wow, you know, he's reached 3 semi-finals before, all went to a final. He's in his 4th. If he's half the job done, if he can complete it, it's 4 semi-finals, all of them won into a final, you know, at European competition. And hopefully he lost the first 2, the symmetry's there, and he wins the next one, so makes it lost 2, win 2. And we'll all be very, very happy if that's the case, you know. And all we need now is for sports washing to get fucked a little bit. And we kind of hope somebody does something to them over the next couple of weeks, and we take that one home too, because it would just honestly completing football with Jurgen Klopp is, you know, like I said, win everything this season. Next year, the only one, I think I said it on UP with Darth, Next year's just invincible. That's all we want to do. We want to go far in Europe just to make money. Rest of it is invincible focus. So let's try and get complete football with Jurgen Klopp. But yeah, it's all dreams, but it's good to dream. And when this man's at the helm, that's one thing you're definitely going to do, isn't it? Is dream. And I think this season, literally, when the Liverpool fan is closing his eyes or trying to get to bed, they're imagining winning everything. And literally, I think every single one of us is thinking regularly about winning everything. I mean, imagine being called champions of everything.
Yeah, and it's not as well. It's not even in an easy place, is it? You know, you look at PSG. What are they? The champions of the, you know, the wealthy people that are way ahead of everyone else in cash have just basically walked through a season. And you know, this was. I mean, to give City their due, and I know where the money's come from and the rest of it. You know, we've had a battle against them on all kind of fronts. You know, we've had battles against Chelsea, who maybe their past is going to start catching up to them. You know, it's just that
one thing I want to say on that, Rob. It's a Jurgen Klopp pod, but if City's manager was anyone else other than Pep, we would beat them. I'm telling you now.
Yes.
So there is a quality aspect to Man City in terms of what Pep brings is what Jurgen brings in terms of that, you know, that consistency of a team. He can, and a style of play that fits the players they've got. That is, Pep is doing a job. But if it was Mancini's or Pellegrini's or whoever was before, right? Klopp would wipe the floor with them all.
Definitely, yeah.
So
and I think that's it, yeah.
We will use City as a brush, man. We'll be just brushing shit apart. We're just moving them out. That's it. See you later, lads. We're out you go. It won't be the same. I wonder if this strikes some fear down East Lancs and they you know, and Pep signs a new deal. I really do, but he hasn't.
Will it be the other way around? Will this be
the
exactly, because he's thinking, you know what? I can't be doing with another 4 years of this shit. You know, I'm getting too old for this shit, as he said on Lethal Weapon. You know,
I do. I really hope he runs off. But that's going to be the interesting part. I think if it was anyone else at the helm, I don't think it's if it was any other team. I think we need to stop saying that. I think if it was anyone else at the helm of that team, I think we would smash them. I honestly do. I don't think they bring that consistency.
No, because they've got the money, but as we said before, you've got to you build a team of a team and not a load of individuals. And there's not many managers that could spend the kind of money they have.
Pep needs to start taking some credit. You know, he doesn't. The money's there, but it literally wouldn't be as good without Pep, folks. Let's be honest. You know, I mean, he can take some credit for it. So, like you said, you have.
I just wish they'd got Ronaldo. I just wish they'd got Ronaldo.
I know,
he would have messed things up for them, wouldn't he? You know, there've been too many egos.
Maybe United would have got Champions League without Ronaldo. So.
Well,
the cancer wouldn't have attacked the squad. But hey, let's stick to fun stuff and Klopp. But I think that's everything. Unless there's anyone else who's on the chat here that wants to have a point or does have a point that they want us to read out before we go, I think we've tried to cover everything we can on Jurgen and how happy we are with him extending, and also just the effect it's going to have on everyone in the club. Hopefully there'll be now deals for Mo and Man and Sadio, come through, and that's it. That build that dynasty, basically. Just build it, get a decade of Klopp, and let's see where we are at the end of that, because I'm sure it's going to be multiple titles and a lot of trophies, and that's all we've dreamt of for a long time, especially since a lot of us grew up watching Man United win things in our adult years, young adult years. As kids, we watched Liverpool win things. As young adults, we suffered.
Yeah, me telling my kids, look, honestly, kids, it is a good idea to support Liverpool. Trust me. Eventually, I could throw them.
Well, to be honest, I converted all my nephews to be Liverpool fans, and I'm sure they're all thanking me now, because at the time they weren't doing as well, but they're all thanking me now. But yeah, I mean, there's a question here from Sunday. Do you think we will go big this summer to stay on top? I think we will go as big as we need to go, in terms of, I think we've paid off a lot of the big signings from the 2018 season, where or just before, like we got Virgin, Ali in, Cater in, Fab in, Shaq in. I think all that stuff's gone now. That's been paid off. So if you add that up, Yeah, I think we are earning as well this year a heck of a lot of money. I think Mo said we're going to be earning big bucks in terms of revenue this year. If we win things, obviously there'll be a lot of payments to go out too. But I do think now the club is probably going to do some big deals as well commercially in terms of the shirt sponsorships that are coming up. There'll be a lot more commercial stuff coming now that Klopp's staying. Like Tadiwa said earlier, Klopp staying for 4 years. Any sponsor coming on board, shirt sponsor, anyone else is going to think, well, okay, here's Klopp. And then if Mo signs on top for another 4 or 5, again, another thing. Okay, that's great. This is our name's going to be on the shirt of this player, and those things matter. To the corporate world that matters, and they want to
You
be
don't
able
have
to
to.
show those pictures. So
I think the other thing
that
as well is if you're doing all of those things, winning all those things, we will want to get the best players. And you know what? You won't need as much money to get the best players in terms of wages and so on, because they're going to
want to
come
come.
here. They're going to turn down more money somewhere else, I'm sure, or they're not going to mess about trying to set up an auction, if you like, for the services, because
And Jim, we
they'll
know players
not
on
want
the
to
way
lose
out.
that chance.
They're not re-signing
Yeah,
their contracts. Some are at the end and they're going to leave, and some are surplus to requirements, and they will want to go and get time somewhere else. There's certain players in the squad that will happen with, and when that happens, there's going to be money available in this in not only the wage bill,
Mhm.
but from what we earn in revenue to start paying for these. And remember, it's all spread over years of contracts, so 5 years. So it's not going to be all paid up front. A lot of people keep still very misinformed that when you buy someone for 70 million, you're paying it all in one go. That doesn't
No.
work like that. There's a deal in place, and you pay it over a month. In fact, you do end up spending 70 million in a year, because if you buy 5, 6 players and you pay 10 million each or 12 million each, then it works out to 70 million. Yeah, in the first year or every year, because you're paying that. But that's why Liverpool were probably frugal a couple of years, because they'd paid large sums out. They'd agreed contracts where they'd promised players that they would pay them big bucks for if they scored and assisted goals, and literally the front three went fucking crazy.
Yeah,
And we were paying big bucks out for players because they were doing so great. And what it was, it kind of what's the phrase? Your own success, victims of your own success, or
yeah,
whatever it
yeah,
is.
yeah,
We,
yeah.
we we kind of put something in place we maybe didn't think it would happen, but it worked and it went through the roof. And then you kind of say, wow, okay, we need to rethink that a little bit.
That's
And,
the other. Yeah.
you
Yeah, I
know,
mean, I'm just thinking as well. There's so many clubs who are sort of, like you say, you buy a player over for whatever price. That's over so many years, and maybe the biggest payment comes up front. Maybe fair enough. And then there's clubs who are basically borrowing off next season's season ticket money and next season's TV money to put that down payment down, and then they still got lots of payments to go. And and they're gambling so much and taking so many chances. Yet Liverpool just don't seem to act that way. The club runs itself. It uses its own money. It knows what's going to come in. It's got a good idea. And the fact we did so well through COVID as well, we didn't struggle financially despite the pandemic and what that could have done to us and what it did to a lot of businesses. Liverpool handled it well. I mean, the little bit about the furlough at the start maybe wasn't great, but other than that, they handled it
they're not
really well.
perfect.
They
No,
got through
they're
it. Well,
definitely
no
aren't
one is.
perfect.
And again, as we said, we Klopp,
It's how
you
you
make a mistake,
react.
you learn from it.
It's how you react and how the people
Yeah.
that work for you react. Jurgen Klopp wouldn't have liked it, but how's he reacted? He's not bitched and fucking moaned like fans have. He's just gone on with his job and made it even better and made the team
And the
even
money's
better.
there now. So when you say, will we go big in the summer? I don't know if we will, but the thing is, we'll go big in the summer if we
I think
need
we
to.
will.
That's the
Honestly,
thing.
Steve,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
will. There's gonna be spaces in the squad that need filling. And
yeah.
when you have spaces in the squad need filling, and when you've been such a successful season, you want to add a few players. And before, when we said, "Oh, we won the league, we didn't add, we didn't," we did try to do things. We did try to add players. Jota, Thiago, Simicas did come in. We did try. Things didn't work out for us because
We
of
need the depth because if we do
factors.
another season like this, we're going to need quality. We don't just want a 25-man squad that's got 15 starters. We want a 25-man squad that's got 22, 23 starters in it.
Yeah, some kids in there that might get some chances. And I think you can trust Klopp and you can trust the people above him to try and do that. At the end of the day, I am convinced that there will be signings this summer. I'm convinced. That's how sure I'm convinced that this is now in the cycle. We're in that cycle, every 4 or 5 year cycle. That's how the club's working. It is evidence for it. It's how it's working. I mean, this morning I came on when I saw that on Twitter. Nobody said it was 2 year extension. They just said it's going to be extended. I came onto Discord and I said, Klopp, that means Klopp's here till at least 2026. And subscribers asked the question, what makes you think it's 2026, Gags? And I said, because the evidence suggests he does 2 year extensions.
Yeah.
Literally, the best way to, try and understand what's going on is by looking at the evidence of what's happened before and maybe using that as a barometer. And that's all I did was say he extended 2 years last time. He's going to extend. And what happened? 2026 came out later on. It was just like, fucking hell, this thing just works to a T.
So as this next 2 years unfolds, then as he's
it might
getting
be another
towards...
two. Yeah,
exactly.
it'll be another two. If he wants it, and his wife wants it, it'll be. I do believe Ola has a lot, a hand to play. If she wants to go back to Germany, he'll go back. And if because he believes that he's given his life to football, he wants to give it to his family too, right? Every man does. We all do. I've taken a step back a little bit from AI because I want to give time to my family. I've 10 years in it. Crazy 10 years where I fucking overworked like a bitch. And I need to do that. I need to do that now. I mean, it's no comparison to a real football, but I fucking spent my life doing 2 jobs for 10 years.
Yeah, I know, and I think I've often think that myself when we're doing podcasts, podcasts and things and writing, and you think, right, that's that game done. Oh my god, there's another one. And I don't mean that in a sort of you hate it, but it does kind of like it does sort of feel relentless sometimes when you're working in the game, and that's just us sort of doing, quite frankly, sat on our backsides work. I mean,
not what they do, travel,
exactly.
Look after players. There's so much go into, from what Klopp's position is that goes into looking after what they're all doing and how they're playing and the problems that happen in squads. And, I mean, the Coutinho era must have been hard, when he wanted to leave and how you manage that and how the players manage that. It's crazy. But I think, look, when the time comes, the time's going to come. But he's here now for 4 years. There's a possibility he might stay for a bit longer. At the end of the day, there's so much that could happen now in the next 4, and I'm just, and everybody that's been on this pod and who's listening as well, I'm sure you're all absolutely over the moon that the next 4 years of our lives are going to be, filled with Jurgen Klopp moments. And
it's so good to be sat on our perch looking down at everyone envious of us, isn't it? That's how I feel a bit today.
So much joy to our life, mate, for the last 6.5 years. I can't tell you some of the best moments of being a Red. I mean, it's just been amazing. Amazing, Matt. I just go through a couple of them, like, the first year, the Dortmund game, Villarreal at home. Those are fucking nuts. The year 1, we were like going mental.
Yeah.
And then as we came back in the Champions League, Man City happened at home, then Roma. There's been games that have been completely nuts.
The adventures we've had with him. I mean, even though we lost in Kyiv, it's so sad what's going on in Kyiv now, but I'll never forget the party atmosphere around that place that was really
awesome.
big. It was Klopp who'd brought us that,
It was awesome. And also afterwards, we learned a lot about ourselves when we lost in Kiev, to be honest, as fans. We sat together, we sang together as we lost in a hotel lobby. Me, Harinder Baji, like all of us, we sat there. My cousins, other Reds, we literally just sat there and sang Klopp other songs just to get our mind off the loss and how the injustice of the loss. We felt it wasn't justified. It just, we just were so hurt. But the year after, literally in the second minute, we felt like it was redemption. There's so many stories of this, of the whole Klopp era that we could.
I mean, I mean, learning from Real Madrid is you change. With all due respect, you decide you need to spend better on a goalkeeper. There's so many things and whether it's down to Klopp or the club or just them as a collective, it doesn't really matter in that much because we just need to keep doing it. We're sort of we're as Borg, if you like, as a club. We just we're all working together. Even the fans, you know, and everybody, we're all part of this. We are all part of this. You know, we should enjoy it
We
and we
have to
deserve it.
mention
You
it
know,
because we forgot to so far. He's actually really only re-signed because he loves the song. Let's be honest, Jim.
that's what did it. He was waiting and waiting. You know, he's like he would have preferred some kind of heavy metal ditty, you know, to have his name to. But you know,
He
the
would've-
Beatles. He's put up with the Beatles.
Oh, mate, how can you not? I mean, it just attaches his name with the city even more. You know, the lore of it.
Yes.
It's just what a combination.
Yeah, I
Jurgen
mean that's
Klopp
it. If people, I mean
has a
this. I
song
mean,
that's based on the Beatles. Like fucking hell.
I love the
There's
city.
no bigger
you know.
honor, right? Surely.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, this is it. I mean, what's this city famous for? The Beatles and Liverpool Football Club. Sorry, Everton, but I don't think you really get a mention. And there you are. You've got two of the most iconic things about this city all rolled into one. With the man who's made sure that we're still on that map, we're still famous for that reason. That we're getting more and more famous. We're getting bigger and bigger and bigger and better and better and better. And I'm just loving it. I mean, I love the city that the club plays in. I love the people in the city and everything else about it. And you know what? I think Klopp does too, because all those times when we heard about players that wouldn't come to us because they fancied the lights of London a lot more, you just don't hear those things anymore. And I'm not being funny. Nothing else has happened in the city except that. I don't know. There's just an atmosphere that those families of those players feel happy here. Maybe because the guys that are earning the money are happy here, and everything is just right. You just don't hear those stories anymore. It's just, you know, Klopp must be playing a part in that as well. It is just a great time to be a Red. We could be here all day saying this, couldn't we?
Absolutely, mate. You know, at the end of the day, I'm in love with him, and I feel fine. I think that's the place where we end it, mate.
Exactly.
You know, I'm so glad Jurgen is a Red, and he's going to be a Red for another 4 years. Thank you to Jim Boardman, to Dan Rhodes, Simon Brundish, Tadiwa, for joining me on reacting to Jurgen extending his contract and making us, you know, fall in love with him again. We'll see you soon.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at anfieldindex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.